Brett Myers, welcome to the Outperform podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot for being here. When you hear the word outperform, what does that mean to you, and how do you define outperforming in your life?
I think everything in life is a competition and competing with anything you do in life and always trying to succeed. So trying to be the best at everything that you can accomplish. You have to set goals and to accomplish those, you have to try to overachieve and push yourself and push your limits to see how far your body physically, mentally can what it can take.
So for people that might not know your background, you've obviously done that at a very high level in a couple of different spots. First and foremost, as a Major League Baseball player and a World Series champion. So how many years did you play in the major leagues?
12.
12, okay.
Yep.
And you played mainly for the Phillies, right? And that's where you won the World Series?
Yep. I played 8 years with the Phillies, 7 or 8 years, something like that. I lose count. It's been so long ago, and then with the Astros for 2.5 years, I got traded to the White Sox at the All-Star break, and then played a year with the Indians.
Okay. And you've been out of the big league since, was it 2013?
13, yep. 2013. Okay. I with the Indians, I injured my arm. I tried to come back from it, and it wasn't going to work. And, my kids were missing me and stuff, so I made like a family decision.
Yeah, sure. And now you have embarked on a music career. Can you tell me a
Correct.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, I started. I've always been interested in playing guitar. I've been playing guitar since I actually got to the big leagues. Our video coordinator was a guitar teacher before he had the job with the Phillies, and he taught me some stuff. And I basically knew 3 chords or something like that. And then I really got into it and started playing. And I was never really interested in playing other people's music. I always wanted to write my own stuff, but I wasn't talented enough to do that on guitar. So, just trying to push myself to make sure, if it's something that I wanted. And then, when I was injured in 2013, I had a lot of downtime. I was just rehabbing and trying to make it back healthy. And obviously it didn't pan out. So, I started trying to write music and stuff like that. That whole season, while I was basically sitting at home, I'd go in and rehab for a couple hours and then go sit at home and just do nothing. So I figured, I don't want to spend my time wisely, and I started writing music. And it's something that I was interested in. The satisfaction of writing something and creating something and seeing it come together is something that I'm passionate about, and it just makes everything like, when you finish a project or do something, you just feel good about yourself afterwards. So, and I think that's one of the reasons I did it. And I wanted to tell a story. And I think that's the best part about music. You can always tell a story and try to be as relatable as possible so that people will like it.
So have you always been someone that has just I don't know if it's that creative part of your brain or has had the ability to just write music? Because I have such I'm so envious of musicians on so many different levels. And I've often wondered, if you were to tell me to just sit down and to just write a song, I don't even know where I would begin. I have no idea how that comes together. So is it something you envision in your mind and then it just gets flushed out, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I guess excuse me. I guess the first things first is you need a concept of what you want to write about and how do you want to tell the story about it, So I'll always come up with like ideas, like something that's, catchy or not cliche-ish, but something that might have 2 meanings, and try to write a way around that. And, I learned a while ago, like the structure of a song is the first thing you kind of need. And, it basically goes intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then repeats itself, and then an outro. And so once I kind of learned that part of it, it was the structure of it, the words, you could write the words in there, and what melody you want and how you want to make it as catchy as possible. But don't get me wrong, I don't do all this by myself. I've had a lot of people help me. So I have a producer that I sit down with and we write the songs together. And he's also my bass player in the band. And we just sit down and I come up with a concept and I'll call him up and I'll say, hey, what do you think of this? Is this stupid or not? And basically he's like, oh, I think that's great. And then we go and, basically structure the song out, the melody and everything, and write around what the concept was.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's a parallel from baseball too, right? Like you don't make it to the big leagues by yourself. You have trainers,
Right.
managers, coaches, and people that are helping you
Right.
along throughout the entire way. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very hard to sit down. I mean, I wouldn't, so some people do it, but like I'm the type of person that needs approval from somebody that will like it. You know, just don't sit down and write a song. It's so much better to sit down and write with somebody, in my opinion, that can grasp what the concept is, and just, you know, it's not really that easy to write songs, but when I sit down with my producer, Damon Starkey, it just comes naturally. And and we usually write a song in a day, and not many people do that. If I write by myself, it could take me a week or so, you know, just to try to find the right words to put in there without sounding dumb, I guess you would say. So you know, it's always good to, when you're sitting there trying to come up with a line, and it has to make sense in the song, and you just, all I need him to do is maybe throw an idea out there, and I'll figure out a way to word it, or he'll figure out a way to word it, and it just goes a little smoother.
Yeah. So I want to come back to the music in a bit, but I actually just initially want to go back to baseball. And I mean, to be able to get to that level, was it just something that was identified early on that you had a gift to be able to pitch and to be able to play baseball, or were you a late bloomer? Talk to me about the evolution of how you
Well,
got to the majors.
Well, I think it started all when I was 7 years old. My dad told me, I was sitting there watching the Braves game because we had WGN and TBS. So it was the Cubs when I got home from school, the Braves when, you know, before I went to bed and stuff like that. So I remember sitting in an apartment with my dad and my brother and everything. And I pointed at the TV and we were watching the Braves. I said, that's what I want to do when I get older. And my dad's like, well, 1 in a million, make it. And I said, well, why can't I be that one? So, so I'd always like had that drive. It's really what I wanted to do at an early age, at 7 years old. I wanted to play in the big leagues, and I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I just kept pushing myself to, you know, the limits of my body and everything. And I mean, yes, I was gifted with a good arm, I guess you would say, but I was more of a baseball player. I didn't necessarily think I was going to be a pitcher. You know, I was a pretty good hitter, pretty good, you know, all around baseball player. And, you know, I never thought that I would just end up, you know, being a pitcher, but as through high school and everything, I was pretty dominant. And, you know, and when you're throwing as hard as I was throwing at the time, you know, you get looks like people are like, oh, he's just going to be a pitcher, you know? So, and I think that my pitching was, you know, above my other baseball skills, obviously, because I played for 12 years doing it. But, you know, you learn along the way. But I wanted to, my drive and everything. Like I accept failure, but I don't like to fail. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I guess I deal with failure, put it that way. But I don't like to, you know, fail at all. Nobody likes losing, period. So I always pushed myself to try to be better each time out, and just basically, you know, kick ass and take names type stuff, you know. So it's always been that drive in me, and just try to keep pushing myself to be the best at whatever I'm into at that time.
And that's what I've heard from so many different high achievers in whatever area we're talking about, is that you hate to fail or you hate to lose so
Right.
much more than you like to win.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
And, you know, the fear of failure is what drives a lot of people. And I think, but learning how to deal with failure makes you a better, it feels much better when you succeed, you know, but learning how to deal with the failure is probably the toughest thing to understand. And, not actually accepting it, but dealing with it to try to, it like drives you a little bit more, pushes you a little bit more to be better the next time. So if you learn how to fail, then I think you're going to be a better achiever.
so speaking of learning how to deal with failure, can you take me back to a specific time in baseball? Because you're going to lose games, you're going to blow saves,
Mm-hmm.
like things like that are going to happen. Do you have one time that really sticks out in your mind as far as a failure that you had and how you responded to that?
Well, I mean, there's I try not to dwell on those, but I mean, I know in 2008 was not one of my brightest years or moments, I guess I would say, in my career. But that's probably the one that would stick out the most. I was the closer in 2007, went to the playoffs with the Phillies, and the first time they went to the playoffs in like 15 years or something like that. And so through that year, the next year in 2008, they made me a starter again. And I'd started my whole career until they put me in the bullpen in 07. I did whatever I could to help the team at the time. And I really enjoyed closing. Like, I loved it. I had a chance to, being a high energy guy, and can't hardly sit still and, sit there for 9 innings really wasn't my forte. I didn't like it. But having a chance to participate almost on a daily basis was huge to me, and I loved it. But the next year, the team needed me to go back and start. Well, I didn't want to start. I was being a little selfish, I guess you would say, but as I really loved closing. And so with that being said, my mentality going into the year in 2008 was still in the closer's mind frame. I never turned the switch over to being a starter where you had to go deep in games. And my pitch counts were getting up there, and I was trying to strike everybody out and not trying to be a starter. And I was getting destroyed out there, basically. I was getting beat up pretty bad. I mean, I had almost a 6 ERA before, and I was just losing it. I was just upset with myself and mad and ticked off and didn't know how to fix it. And I had 15 people telling me what to do and what not to do. And it was almost like I needed to shut my brain off and just go back to, or remember and follow it, how I got there and stuff like that. So the Phillies made a decision to send me down to the minor leagues, and I did not have to go. I had 5 years in the league. So after 5 years in the show, then you don't have to accept, your when they send you down. So basically, I went down out of a necessity, I guess, because what kind of team player would I be if I didn't go down? I definitely was not helping the team with my arm at the point in time. So I just kind of went down, took a mental break, and still pitched and stuff like that. And then I was beaten up and didn't understand, and I had to reteach myself or relearn how to start again. And I know that sounds crazy. They're like, you've been doing this your whole life, but it's also a mindset of what you want to accomplish and everything. And I just could not wrap my mind around what was going on and how to fix it. So they sent me to the minors, and basically I went down, and just all the stress went away of not, because it didn't count, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. In the minors, it definitely counted in the big leagues and stuff like that. Like, it mattered, but so I just kind of took the stress off of myself and just said, you know what, I'm going to just pitch and be relaxed and do what I do, and I came back after the All-Star break. They sent me down for like 20 days, almost a month, and I got my stuff together. They called me back, pitched my first game after the All-Star break, and it was downhill from there. I mean, I had like a 1-something ERA the second half of the season, and we won a World Series. So it was kind of a roller coaster year for me, but and it makes it so much sweeter that I did fail, and I could not fix it. And then when I did fix it, and then on top of that, icing on the cake was winning the World Series. And so the failure part of that made that year so much better and so much more memorable to me. Like, yes, winning the World Series is like one of the greatest achievements ever, but I look back at how I got there and how we won that World Series was more satisfying to me than probably any of the other guys on the team.
And I mean, was that just an issue of taking away some of that stress and some of that pressure, going back down to the minors and getting your confidence back? And then when you came back up, is that what happened, or is there anything else specific that you can think of?
You know what? I really don't understand exactly what changed, honestly. But I know that my mindset changed about what I needed to do and how to start again. And it was basically very simple. And I had a pitching coach down there that I've had since I was in A-ball, so since I was 18, 19 years old. And he's always been one of my guys that I look up to, and talk to about pitching and everything like that. And he always used to tell me, it's so easy, it's hard. Mm-hmm. And I would never understood what the heck he was talking about until that year when I went down and worked with him and pitched, and he was in my ear a lot, and he's like, every time you get strike one, just throw a fastball in. And I was like, okay, I ain't got nothing to lose. I'm in the minor leagues. It doesn't count. So, and I took that approach into the big leagues when I came back, and that's really the only adjustment I made. But then again, as a closer, I was throwing, 95 to 98 miles an hour. And then I come back as a starter and I'm throwing 90, 93. And that just does not get by people, as it was as a closer. Plus it's you get a 3-run lead, but as a closer, you can throw a fastball down the middle. The guys are usually taken, because they're trying to get base runners, and who knows. But so, once I did that, I did that the whole second half of the season, and I just couldn't believe it. And then now when he says it's so easy, it's hard, I'm like, because that was just like the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my life. Like, the hitters could not make an adjustment. I did it every game. I pitched everybody almost the same way, and they could not make the adjustment off me, and it worked out, and we won a World Series.
So I'm curious about this, because there's going to be so many different people listening to this, whether they're athletes or musicians, right, or business leaders or anything else. And we all deal with stress and pressure in our lives. And I can't
right.
imagine a more pressure-packed time, even though you have teammates, when you're out there, than feeling like you're out there just on an island pitching, whether you're starting or closing, and everybody's looking at you. Yep. So is there anything specific you did from a mental standpoint or otherwise that allowed you to, when the pitches did count up in the big leagues, and especially in the World Series, right, the things that you did that allowed you to thrive and perform under pressure?
Well, I can tell you that the adrenaline in big games and certain things, like, I loved that. I loved the atmosphere. I loved that feeling that I had. Once I got through the first inning as a starter, that's the most nerve-wracking part, because in the bullpen, I've had times in the bullpen where I'm just like, oh boy, it's going to be a long day today, because I just looked terrible. I felt terrible. And then all of a sudden I get on the mound, and first pitch I throw, I'm going, oh, it's on. Like you can't take that bullpen how you did out there to the mound into the field. So it's to separate those two. You got to take the bullpen and just say, hey, I'm just down here getting loose. I'm just getting ready for the game. Nothing counts down here. So to try to separate those two, usually when that adrenaline kicks in, when you step on that game mound, it's just, you forget about everything. You just try to keep your composure and relax a little bit. And the first inning was always the toughest innings for me, because I didn't know how that day was going to go. And that first pitch, I'm like, dang, do I got it today or not? If I get through that first inning, I'm like, all right, it's on. I feel good today. Or, not every start that you go out there, you have your best stuff. And that's how you learn how to pitch. You have to learn how to, not every day you have your, 95 mile an hour fastball, or your location's not there, or your breaking ball's not biting good that day. So, sometimes you just have to use other pitches and relax yourself and try to pitch out of it. And there's a lot of, the fear of letting my teammates down and being on a national stage of people seeing you fail is kind of, and then you got to wait 4 days before you can redeem yourself as a starter. It's like drives you nuts,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mental wear and tear that you're like, oh, well, and, a lot of, I guess you would say, superstition, I guess you would say that okay, so I had a good start today. What did I do for those 4 days in between the start? So I'm going to repeat that, and hopefully I have the same results. So, I do the same program. And then if I have a bad start with that program, I switch it up, whether it be my running or whatever like that. It's a constant wear and tear of, if I keep doing it this way, then maybe I'll continue to pitch well. But if you have a bad one, all right, let's just throw all that away. Let's change your shoes or your socks or whatever it is, and try to have a better start the next time. And it's tough sometimes, but when you're going good, you don't think about any of that stuff.
Sure. So let's transition over to what you're doing right now, because I'm curious, what are some of the parallels and the things that you've noticed that you used to use in baseball that you now use in music that you think have been most impactful and you can go any direction you want with
Right.
this, but some of the crossovers and some of the parallels between the two.
Well, I started the music stuff for something to do, and I always have to have something to do, and or a goal or something like that. And so I started the music because I was injured, and I didn't know how far I wanted to take it. I wrote a couple songs with a buddy of mine, and they sound terrible because we used GarageBand. Not that that's a bad program. It's just that we didn't have the proper gear to make it sound, professionally done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really proud of those 3 songs that we did, like really proud of them. And I listen to them now and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I let anybody listen to these things. And it wasn't like the singing it was just kind of muddy. It wasn't like professional sound, obviously. But when I did those, then I got in, I kind of said, well, I sent them to like a real producer, and a buddy of mine is a producer. And I said, let's get him to master them. And I kind of feel bad for even letting him listen to those songs, because now I listen to them and they're terrible. But so I wrote a song with him, and I was like, sweet, that feels really good. I wrote a song. That's awesome, man. I got a good, rush out of that. And that was cool. And then he goes, all right, get in there and sing it. And I told him, that ain't happening, buddy. Like, I am not doing it. I do not want to get in there and sing. And I was like, I don't even sing in the shower. It's not happening. And but he pushed me to do it like any good coach would. He pushed me to, step outside my comfort zone. And basically he tricked me. He told me to come over and have some beers with him. And then he threw me in the booth. Like after 2 weeks of writing the song, like 2 weeks after 2 weeks after writing this song, I was still telling him no. Like, we wrote the song. He's like, get in there saying no. And he called me, and then he finally said, hey, why don't you come over? Let's have some beers or whatever like that. I said, okay, sure. And then probably 6, 7 beers in, he's like, come on, let's go to the studio. I didn't even think nothing of it. And then maybe get in there and sing it. And I was like, God, oh man, like that was fun, but nerve wracking, like kind of having somebody else out there listening to you sing when you don't want to sing around nobody or anybody, And so it was kind of like being on that mound by yourself and watch all these people watching you, and everybody goes, well, you pitched in front of those people. Why are you nervous about this? I'm like, well, I played baseball my whole life. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. This is something that I've never done before or even practiced before. So it's one of those things where you just kind of have to go, you know what, screw it. And honestly, like the beers, when, people have some beers, they just kind of go, whatever, I don't care anymore. It's kind of like that liquid courage, I guess you would say. And then I ended up doing, and I guess the fear of people not liking what I was doing, but then realizing that it really doesn't matter what they think. I should just make myself happy. If I like it, then I'm okay with that type stuff. So, with the music stuff and doing these songs, I did an EP. I did 5 songs and I put it out. And I'm like, all right, let's just see what people think. And I know people are going to bash me and say it sucks and all that other stuff because it might not be their cup of tea, or they just don't like me because I'm of baseball, so, which is fine. People have their favorite players and they have their hated players and stuff like that. So, I put it out there, and I guess Philadelphia newspapers or something, they caught wind of it, and people were really liking a few of the songs on there. And I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Let's just finish it. Let's just do an album. Finish it. Let's do another 5, 6 songs. And so I did that, and then put that out, and that was cool. But the best part, I guess, about the whole music thing was after my first album, we started on my second album, and my producer's like, dude, we should go play some of these songs live. And here I am going, absolutely not. I don't want to do it. I'm, just nervous, like, I'm like, what if I suck?
Yeah.
The same thing with like the pitching. What if I go out there and suck? Even though I was more comfortable doing that, I was like, how am I going to remember these words? He's like, you wrote them. I'm like, that don't mean I remember what I wrote. Like I get in there and sing it and read off a notepad, and I don't have a notepad live on stage. I'm like, what if I forget the words, man? So that's nerve-wracking. I told him I wasn't going to play live. And then I opened my mouth and I said, well, I'll play live if we play an arena. And come on, that's not going to happen. Obviously, I mean, nobody's going to call me to play in a dang arena. So I was trying to set myself up to where I didn't have to play live. Well, about a month later, the Jacksonville Sharks arena football team calls me and asks me to play a halftime show. And I'm going, oh, damn. I got just stuck my foot right in my mouth. And at that point, like, I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. And I was like, well, I got to do it. I practiced for months to try to just remember 2 songs.
Yeah. And
it was crazy how nerve-wracking that was. But also, you know, it's stressful, but it was always like pitching that first inning, you know, stressful. You didn't know how you were going to do or how you were going to be. And never playing live with a band before, trying to sing songs that I don't really like. I know them, but I don't like trying to play along with the band and stuff like that. I was like, whoa, this is weird, like rehearsal. And, you know, we figured it out, obviously. But that one time, those 2 songs on that stage in front of about 10,000 people, and they were not there to watch me, by the way. They were there to watch football, just to let you know. But they were like, I don't know who this guy is. But so I did that show, and then the adrenaline rush was just like, I wouldn't compare it to, you know, pitching in a World Series, because that's like one of the top things that you could do. But it was kind of like that feeling, you know, that I was out there pitching again. And so once I did that show, I was like, well, let's do another one now. You know, let's keep getting these things and let's do it, because that's fun, you know, interact with the fans and seeing people like it or not. And it's just that adrenaline rush. We just played a show yesterday, and it was awesome. Like, it's always fun. And it's fun because it's like that team atmosphere with my band. It's like being back in the locker room with the guys, and like, we crack jokes on each other and we have fun. You know, we talk about just random stuff. You know, it's like, this is my team now. And so this is my other team. And I try to be the best teammate I can be, as well as they do, even though we all have our little quirks and stuff like that, but always try to keep my teammates happy, you know?
I have no idea if you know this number, so you can ballpark it if you want to, but how many live shows have you done at this point?
Oh, shoot. Well, I mean, we're very picky, I guess you would say, about what we play. We're not going to play like local bars or stuff like that. You know, we try to play bigger venues and stuff. And I've opened for Uncle Cracker, Luke Combs, the Lax, Colt Ford, just to throw some names out there. But I've gotten those shows because I know those guys through baseball, you know, or I've met them through buddies of mine. And so I would probably have to say we've probably done about 15, 16 live shows, maybe, I would say. And they're just kind of hard to pick and choose which one you want, like, because they have these local bar bands that just go around and play, you know. And my band consists of guys, and it's, you know, kudos on their part, because they won't allow me to do it, honestly. And I think it was a good structure. The plan they had, they wanted us to look more relevant by playing bigger venues and shows with certain bigger names. And the reason why they were doing this is because 2 of my bass player and 1 of my guitar players played in Puddle of Mud, and my other guitar player played in Shinedown, and then the other guitar player played in Cold and J.J. Graham Mofro, and my drummer's dad was in Rosin Collins. So it's like, this group is like a bunch of all-stars, and it's like some of the best talent musically and playing ability that I've ever seen, you know. And just the fact that how tight they are, and they're all friends, and they all know each other, and they played with each other growing up, in various bands and stuff like that. So when they step in here, it's kind of like, okay, just another gig for us. But they have structured it to where we're picky with the shows that we play, and who we play them with. And I think that has helped our brand grow a little bit more, or make it look like that we're a bigger band than we possibly are. I don't know. But I mean, it was a great idea when they told me.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine with me. But like, just taking any show, anytime, that, like the show we played yesterday, the band was skeptical of playing it, you know, because it was at a tailgate party, you know, but it was for, you know, some friends of ours and stuff like that, and promoted it well, put it out there. So, you know, it worked out for us. So,
And I'm hoping that everybody listening and watching this has gotten exactly what you're saying, because for a person that has been out there pitching in front of millions and millions of people, who was initially afraid to get in the studio to record
right.
one song
Absolutely.
because you take you out of your element, put you in a different one, and now
Right.
where that's grown to, it's, I always say magic happens outside of the comfort zone, or you got to get
Yep.
comfortable getting uncomfortable.
Yep.
So to actually see you do that, and to know that, sometimes we look at people that have played athletics at your level and think, well, they're just full of confidence or bulletproof,
Right.
and, nothing gets to them. I think actually sharing that's a really powerful thing for people to be able to hear.
Yeah. And, like I've always been goal oriented, I guess, once I start something, I like to finish it. So, at first I was doing it for fun, and it's kind of turned into a business now. And to push myself, I love it when people tell me I can't do something, because then I'm like, okay, sit back and watch, and so I thrive off of people. I guess you would call them the haters or whatever, the ones that tell me that you suck or you're no good or whatever like that, are the people that actually drive me in life to prove them wrong. And that actually has been, a motto of mine since I was a kid. Anybody that tells me I suck, I'm not good enough, well, I just love to basically go stick it up their rear end as much as I could, and prove them wrong. And then, so, because when I first started the music stuff too, everybody's like, oh yeah, right, or a baseball player can't be a musician too. You like, some people in this world think that you can't be successful at two things in life, and that's false. You can be successful at anything you want to be successful at if you put your mind to it.
Yeah. So I'm actually glad that you shared that, because I was going to ask you what kind of your strategy was to be able to deal with the critics and the skeptics and
Mm-hmm.
the people, the haters, for lack of a better term,
Yep.
because I'm convinced that that's a big reason why a lot of people don't put themselves out there, is because they
Yep.
just,
It's scared of what people want to think of them and stuff like
yeah,
that. And you know what? I honestly don't care what people think. Obviously friends and family, you want to keep, you care about what they think, but just like people outside out there, because people are jealous. And I'm not saying that people are necessarily jealous of me, but just in life in general, people are jealous, and that's where the hate comes from.
yeah,
They want to be you, or they want to be successful like this other person. Like, how many times I've heard, like, I hate that player. Like, I don't like that. I hate him, like, you hate him. Why? Because he's good, or you played, or he took your job when you were in high school or something like that. Like, people want to talk bad about people all the time, because they're jealous. There's no reason for somebody to, if you don't know a person, how can you hate that person? Okay,
yeah.
listen, I don't like the way he plays the game of baseball. That's fine.
Mhm.
That is perfectly fine. I don't like the way that guy sings. I don't like the way that guy plays the guitar. That's fine. Everybody has a preference, but it's not, hey, I hate that guy because, I'm jealous of what he's done.
Yeah.
That's the way I think people react to certain things. And I think that's never going to change, but it's okay with me. So that's the way I wrap my mind around it. It's like, oh, that guy's just jealous that he can't do what I do, or he's too scared to try what I'm doing.
Yeah. I 100% agree. If people would like to learn more about you, what you're doing, where you're playing, where do you want people to go to be able to find that info out?
You can go to my social media accounts, or brettmyersmusic.com. My social media account on Instagram's Brett Myers Music 39. Twitter's Backwood Rebel 39. And I have a Facebook page, just Brett Myers Music. So you can keep up with all my stuff. I post a bunch of pics about just daily life stuff or shows or whatever. I think it's entertaining. At least I entertain myself when I do it at times.
Well, there you go. That's where it starts. And for anybody listening, watching, I'll put links to Brett's website as well as social media channels in the show notes for this episode. Any other, I guess, words of wisdom or parting shots that you'd like to leave with the audience?
I guess one would be never take no for an answer when somebody tells you can't do something. And I mean that in life, and when you're trying to be successful. How many successful people do you know that have actually heard the word no a lot, but they just kept going and proved those people wrong, I guess you would say. And when people like tell you no, like, if you have passion about it and you really want to succeed in doing something that you really love doing, then keep going. Like, you don't have to stop because one person tells you no. There's going to be a lot more people in your life and a lot more people around you that's always going to tell you no. And you can ask, successful people in this world how many times they've been told no, that they can't do something when they have an idea. And those successful people never took no for an answer.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that parting shot. So on behalf of the entire Outperforming audience, we want to thank you for sharing your time and stories and wisdom with us. Thanks a lot, Brett.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. And to all of you out there, wishing you the best of health, happiness, high performance. Have a great day.